This is Belle. She's a husky lab mix who I've had since 2018. I got her as a rescue, and although sometimes she is a little skittish, she's a very sweet girl. She's fun to hang out with, and she's always such a delight. For a bit over a year now, I've adopted the habit of taking her on daily walks. Some days are sunny, some days are snowy, but it always feels like a small adventure with her. I remember one time in particular, instead of listening to a podcast like usual, I decided to turn on Pokemon music. As we were walking down the trails, it felt like I was on my way to Viridian City with my starter, ready to face any Pidgeys or Rattatas that should come our way. Of course, this walk did come to an end, but I had an idea. What if I could put her inside of my Pokemon Red game and explore the Kanto region with her? What if we could take on gyms together? And what if I could become a Pokemon master with her by my side? I knew that I would have to figure out a way to make this dream come true. In order to put my dog in Pokemon, I went ahead and did some research on how to make a Game Boy ROM hack. For those of you who are unaware, ROM hacking is the process of modifying a ROM image or ROM file of a video game to alter the game's graphics, dialogue, levels, gameplay, and/or other elements. Basically, you're taking an old game and putting in a new twist. After a bit of digging around online, I found a decompilation for Pokémon Red. This means that instead of resorting to editing the ROM file by itself, I can edit the assembly code which makes the ROM. That's a lot easier to mess around with. With just a few hours of pretending I know assembly and squeezing sprites into the ROM, I finally put my dog inside of Pokémon Red. After all these trials, I was stoked to explore Kanto once again, but with Belle by my side this time. Starting up the modified game, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Professor Oak introduces us to Nidorino and we say goodbye to Mom. However, once we go into Oak's lab, Bulbasaur is nowhere to be seen, and instead, we're greeted by Belle. Obviously, I chose her as my starter, and I was able to absolutely demolish my rival's Charmander. When you put your dog in Pokemon, you get to choose the stats, and so I only chose the most accurate stats to represent her. After doing a fetch quest for Professor Oak, we beelined it for Brock's gym. Now, if you've ever chosen Charmander or Pikachu as your starter, you know how hard it can be to defeat Brock without having type advantage. But fortunately for us, while Belle isn't a water Pokemon, she still goes for the occasional swim, and she can splash the excess water onto her foes. After Belle learned how to do this, Brock was toast. With the Boulder Badge in hand, Belle and I took off for our next destination. On our way up to Cerulean City, we battled a bunch of trainers and we had a few close calls, but Belle had a trick up her sleeve. You see, Belle loves to shake hands, and she will do it very often. However, sometimes it hurts as her nails can be rather long. I realized that we could use this to our advantage, and Belle began shaking hands with all the opposing Pokemon she fought. This ended up working out incredibly well, as our opponents never expected this sort of attack, and they often flinched from it. Although it felt like forever, we finally crossed through Mount Moon and triumphantly entered Cerulean City. And because I've only been focusing on Belle, she was super high level by the time we came out of Mount Moon. I'm sure this is just because she's a good girl though. Just to be sure we are strong enough for Cerulean City's gym, we headed out to Bill's mansion and we defeated a few trainers along the way. Everything seemed to be going okay until Belle got a little spooked by me turning Bill back into a human. With him just walking out of the teleporter, I guess she just wanted to protect me. However, she ended up destroying the SS Anne ticket that Bill had so generously given me. Without this ticket, there's no way we could board the SS Anne. Eventually, we decided that moving on was the best course of action for now, and we'd cross that bridge when we came to it. At the moment though, we just had to focus on defeating Misty and earning the Cascade Badge. Because Misty's Pokemon seemed to be so polite, I decided that shaking hands with all her Pokemon would be the best way to go. I was a little afraid that she might have caught wind of this strategy from all the other trainers we defeated, but I guess none of them bothered to warn her as she didn't have anything to counter it at all. Misty was quite infuriated when her Pokemon were knocked out just from shaking hands.
Belle.
You're driving me crazy!
I'd still say it was worth it. Following another triumphant win, Misty gave us the Cascade Badge, and now we had the ability to use Cut. For my previous journeys in Kanto, I know that you need to use Cut in order to enter Lieutenant Surge's gym, and having the Cascade badge was a good step in the right direction. However, I still needed a Pokemon that knew Cut, and the only way that I knew to teach a Pokemon Cut was to get HM01 from the SSN. But as I mentioned earlier, we couldn't go on the SSN because Belle had destroyed the ticket. So we needed to think of something else. I could tell Belle felt extra bad after halting our journey through Kanto. And so, in order to make up to it, she urged me to fight wild Pokemon on Route 6. I figured she was high enough level already, and I doubted that more battles would have any effect at all. However, to my surprise, instead of her going out into battle like I had planned, she nudged Rattata to go in her place. Pidgey's Gust almost defeated him, and Belle did have to finish the battle, but even still, that was enough experience to level Rattata up, and I think I see where Belle was going with this one. I have no idea what sort of wizardry Belle cooked up in order to make this happen, but Rattata magically learned Cut once he grew to level 8. Maybe our journey was saved after all. Right after healing from a Pokemon Center, I taught Belle how to dig, and we charged straight into Lieutenant Surge's gym. With Belle now knowing how to dig, Surge was incredibly easy. The most difficult part of the gym was finding the correct switch amongst all the trash. After we located the switch, we just dug a couple of times, and we knocked out all of Surge's Pokemon without breaking a sweat. However, despite our win and our newly acquired Thunder Badge, we were both exhausted. We decided to call it a day. We took a shortcut through Diglett Cave and we walked back home. Too tired to even greet Mom, we headed upstairs and took a well-deserved rest. Okay, even though I might have slightly hyperbolized our adventure, it was still super fun to go through the first few gyms with Belle. Especially creating custom moves. While I didn't feel completely original as I did use animations from existing moves, it still had an air of freshness to it. Kind of how when you play Gen 2, some things feel similar to Gen 1, but just a little bit more evolved. If you've ever thought about making a ROM hack before, especially if there is a decompilation available, I'd totally say just go for it. I've never coded with assembly at all before, but with simple modifications, you don't even need to know much. Just follow the pattern of pre-existing code, and that's all you have to do. Anyways, that's about it for this video. If you want to see a follow-up, or maybe you want to see a tutorial, make sure to let me know. But until then, I hope that you have a good day. Goodbye!